It's a new week here on Card Central 365, looking into the hot stove season that's upon us in Major League Baseball. He's Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Joe Roderick. This is STL Sports Central, where all content's brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. And Brenden, if you and I were betting men, we're going to talk today about just kind of, the landscape of free agency in baseball this year, with the Cardinals probably not in on any of the top 10, the top 30, maybe even the top 50 free agents in all of baseball. But once again, they're going to have to sign somebody. So I wanted to look today at kind of who does make sense for the Cardinals. Who, when you see a name out there and you go, you know what? They could go get that guy for 1 year, similar to what they did with Phil Maton last year, similar to what they did the year before with Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson. So I kind of wanted to look at that today and kind of bounce some ideas off of each other and get the listeners involved and kind of see what they have to say about it. What criteria are you looking for when you look at who is a possible free agent acquisition for the Cardinals?
Well, I mean, we can start with what positions are we talking about? And I think the main objective here is going to be starting pitching, because you obviously have a deficit there where you're not really sure just how soon you're going to be able to rely upon the next up and coming group of guys, like Liam Doyle, for example, that, yeah, we're hoping to see him at some point, but how quickly are they going to rush him along for a team that, is not necessarily destined to compete right away? Quinn Mathews made his way to AAA, spent the year there. Is he somebody that is on the horizon for 2026? Yeah, maybe. But I also think you can't go into a season expecting that or trying to force the issue on guys like that, and maybe even some of the other AA to AAA type of starters that are going to be coming to spring training camp in February, probably looking to make an impression. But as you're team building and you're looking to plot out a roster, I think we all would agree the Cardinals are going to need more starting pitching. Miles Mikolas is a free agent. He is gone. That's, obviously one spot that they're going to have opened up. And, even toward the end of the season, there was Eric Fetty. You started with him last year. You obviously didn't end with him. There are some openings here. What is to become of Andre Palante and his status if they bring him back? Okay, great. Is he just destined for a rotation spot, or do you bake in some additional competition that is maybe on that lower end of the spectrum, as you mentioned, when it comes to the free agents that are out there? Can you sign a 1-year deal for somebody? Can you sign a 2-year deal for somebody? I think this is going to be an interesting offseason where you could see some 2-year deals for guys in that kind of area of the free agency pool that might question what's to come with a new CBA, and maybe on the players' side, guys trying to get potentially locked in for that. On the team side, you may see hesitance to do it, but if you have a player for whom multiple teams are bidding, maybe a second year at a perhaps lower AAV that makes it more team friendly is something that could come into play. So yeah, I think you're not talking about the upper echelon of names, Joe, but I think you're talking about starting pitching, and you're talking about guys that, you could get him on a pillow deal, which is like a guy didn't have a great year, and so he's looking to bounce back and then re-enter the market 1 year later. Those are the targets that I would say would at least theoretically be in play for the Cardinals. We really don't know what they're going to do, so it makes it for a difficult exercise. But it's November. This is the time of year for those things to start heating up, and so I think it's a good thing to talk about today.
You just to backtrack there, just to mention something I saw last night. Liam Doyle, the Cardinals' first-round draft pick this past year in the 2025 draft, and it's award season. And Liam Doyle won a Pitching Ninja Award by Rob Friedman, the Pitching Ninja on Twitter yesterday for Psycho of the Year. So get him to Busch Stadium ASAP. I want to see that firsthand this year. I did retweet it if you go look on online, so you can see just exactly what makes Liam Doyle the most psychotic pitcher in all of baseball, according to the Pitching Ninja. I digress now, back into what we were discussing. And you mentioned that pillow deal. Yeah, you get a guy on, you can throw out there that 2-year deal with him with the player option for the next year. And, if he has a great year, chances are they're going to go elsewhere and try to get that bag for that second year. If they suck, then, you're kind of wrapped up with them. Or if it's still mediocre, you're still kind of stuck with that guy for the last year. So one of the names that as I kind of scroll through the list of people that I look at for this, a name that jumps out at me is a guy, Lucas Giolito, who, God, has he had his ups and downs in his career. It has been a roller coaster for him. But Lucas Giolito, coming off Tommy John surgery, back in 24, I think, had March of 24.
Yeah, missed the whole season.
Yeah, missed the
24.
entire season. Goes and it ends up with the Red Sox last year. He signs in 24 with the Red Sox. Misses the entire season. Last year makes 26 starts. A good year coming off Tommy John for a team that was contending all season. With the Red Sox 10-4 with a 3.41 ERA. Now he declined his option after the season to become a free agent. So when you look at what they're looking for, he's probably looking for a lot more than what the Cardinals are willing to offer.
Yeah.
But it is one of those, again, like you're going to proceed with caution on a guy like that, who is coming off just a, first year back off of Tommy John, maybe not wanting to invest a 5-year deal in the guy, send him somewhere else and give him one of those 2-year options, not knowing what in the world 2027 has in store for us when it comes to baseball games.
Yeah, he's a real interesting candidate in general for this free agency. Not to be the cold water guy, but I think you referenced to some of the challenges for the Cardinals specifically, being able to get to a deal like this one because of where they're at. Like, I think if it were a different set of circumstances with the organization this offseason, where you felt like you were a little closer to being able to contend and you might be a starter away from feeling really good about that rotation and saying, yeah, we've got some ascending players on the position side and we've got some veterans that are going to hold down the fort, and 26 might be our year to make a run. Then I think really Giolito becomes an interesting guy because you mentioned it. He had good numbers, especially for coming off of a Tommy John. With the way that he had pitched in the year preceding that, like that was not a great consistent season for him necessarily. Had good numbers with the White Sox that year, but ended up on a couple of other different teams the rest of the way in 23 and did not have great numbers there. And then not a surprise that the following year he was out for Tommy John. But 3.41 ERA this year with Boston, 145 innings, which is, yeah, it feels notable for a guy to make those 26 starts coming off a year like that. But let's talk about the option he declined. $19 million is the option he could have had to play on for 2026, and he declined it. So you're already talking about somebody that's pretty confident he's going to get a larger deal than that. Now, I don't know ultimately. I was trying to find this out. There's a $1.5 million buyout. It said the Red Sox, I'm reading this from ESPN, they've got a list of the top 50 free agents, could offer him the qualifying offer at $22 million. I don't know whether that is expected to happen or if that would have already happened. I'm trying to find the date on this article, but that's just not in the Cardinals price range, in my opinion. You could then project and say, if he's getting multiple years, to your point about 2, what would a reasonable 2-year contract be if I'm the player who had just declined a $19 million option? Well, I'm going to probably want at least 30 over 2 years, right? Like I could go 2-year, $15 million a year. I get to 30 that way. And that's probably more security than just taking the 19 over 1. But you're also sacrificing on the average annual value. If I'm Giolito, I just had the bad thing happen to me. I just had the Tommy John. So I'm probably more inclined now, I think, to bet on myself, thinking, all right, I got this new elbow. I would rather be able to, settle for a larger 1-year contract or maybe get more years out of this if I'm going to be sacrificing AAV. So I think in his shoes at age 30, 31, he'll be looking for 4 or 5 years. I don't know how many free agents in his level, at his tier, are going to be able to get that just because of the economics of the sport right now and the uncertainty about what's to come. I don't know. I don't think we really know as a society that follows this Major League Baseball machine what the league at large is going to do with those types of guys this winter. I just think, though, from the Cardinals' perspective, you've got a guy here that is probably going to start out wanting a 4 or 5 year contract. If he doesn't get that, certainly is going to want 2 and is going to want it as close to that average annual value of $19 million that he already turned down. And so you're talking about if it is a 2-year deal with some options on the back end, is it $32 million? Is it $35 million? I think ESPN projected 2 and 32 for him. I just don't think where the Cardinals are that's going to be a shelf that they're willing to shop on just yet. I think you'll have to aim even lower than what ESPN considers to be the 24th ranked free agent in this class, Lucas Giolito, who will be 31 on opening day this next year. I think we're going to be talking about guys below that level, in my opinion, Joe. Although, if they were to sign that deal, let's say the Cardinals did sign Giolito to a similar contract, 2 for 32. That would show me a lot more than I'm expecting to see from like the commitment of ownership to think that, hey, we're not really conceding here and we're not going to be far away from these types of expenditures being worthwhile. I just do not expect it in this offseason for the Cardinals. I think things will look a little bit different than that.
Yeah, this is that was the second Tommy John or UCL injury that Lucas Giolito has suffered in his career. Okay. Had concerns of one when he was drafted out of college and had surgery in the minors for the Nationals. And then the second one. So, and the second one he had, I believe, was the newer procedure, the brace procedure that is in. Who was that? Who was the Cardinal that was?
You're killing me.
I know. I'm sorry.
Not Matt Bowman, but was it Matt Bowman, or am I thinking of somebody else? He had something.
I know. We'll figure it out, or somebody will sit there and yell at us as they're watching this right now on YouTube. But as you go through that and you realize, okay, 5 years on something like that might be asking a bit much. They're going to, I mean, 31 is sorry. Okay. Thank you. 31 years old is really attractive out there in the free agency.
Yeah.
2 UCL surgeries though.
Yeah.
It's, that, man.
You have to, by the way, you have to know better than to kick a can down the road like that with my ADD brain. I was like, I'm finding it, Seth Maness. Anyway, to your point. Yeah.
That's what makes us a good. I was sitting here trying to Google it as I was talking. That's why
it's hard to do both. I've done that where I'm doing a podcast and I'll be typing the words that I'm saying. And I'm like, no. I need to have a different track on my brain. So your question about Giolito, are you framing that from a perspective of risky for the team that signs him to the long deal, or risky for him to not get as long of a deal as he can? Because what if he gets hurt again? There's kind of that push-pull.
Risky for him, and I think brings it back down into that Cardinals atmosphere of a possibility, because if the teams that are out there and want to spend that kind of money that he'd want on a 5-year deal, you're talking 5 years, $100+ million deal for something like that. It brings it back down because those teams are going to be hesitant to it, to where he might need another prove yourself type of deal. So, for those, it's, you're kind of getting into,
but you're like going to prove yourself,
Chris Carpenter type deal where it's like, that's a guy that had to prove himself.
But he had a good season for Boston. Like Carpenter, I feel like he had not really had that success and the consistent health when the Cardinals first brought him on. And by the way, if you're Giolito, now you're at a point where 31, 32 is your whole career just proving it, until now they'll tell you you're too old to be given that long-term contract. Like, that's the economics of baseball that I don't know that it's going to get any better for guys in that tier unless they do establish a salary cap and a floor, because there will be teams that sign guys like that to get to a floor potentially. But I just don't necessarily know. Like, you're gambling on what the outcome of this very tenuous, uncertain situation is if you're talking about that. But it is interesting to read these ESPN.com kind of prognostications. Kylie McDaniel is the author of this story, which is time-stamped November the 6th. So just a handful of days ago, of the top 50 free agents. And you're looking at the pitchers, Joe,
I want
And
to
I'll
get
give
here before you get to your names, because I
Yeah.
do want to know. I do want to hear your names. But before you get to that, I do want to remind people that we here at STL Sports Central, all the content is brought to you by our friends over at DraftKings, and we are 1 week away, November 17th. That's when you can create your DraftKings Sportsbook account in Missouri and get ready for launch day on December 1st. DraftKings Sportsbook brings you everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook now. Use promo code STL Sports and grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live on December 1st in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and over. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
So, Brendan, as you mentioned, you have that list of the top 50 free agents. Is there a name on there that jumps out at you?
Well, what's standing out to me before I can get into the tier of names that I think the Cardinals could go for is just like the predictions on these contracts, I think, tell you where we are. Zach Gallen, as an example, is 13th on this list. It's not a pitcher list. It's just overall free agents. And they project 4 years and $76 million. Like Zach Gallen, I feel like is a pretty good pitcher. He's probably a top 5 or 6 arm in this free agency class. Cease is above him. Framber Valdez is above him. You don't get too many guys before you get down to Cease. There's a Tatsui Imai, I'm probably butchering his name, over from Japan.
He has great hair. He has amazing hair.
I gotta look. He's listed at number 5 on their list. But
you don't see Japanese players with the head of hair that he has down to the shoulders.
He does have the flow. Yeah, that flow's got to be worth at least an extra mile per hour or two.
That's what I would think. Zach, you mentioned Zach Gallen's name. I mean, it's a new regime in St. Louis. Like you do wonder, like,
so. No.
Does he just hate the organization that much that it doesn't matter who's in charge?
Yeah, I would be surprised by that one for sure. I'm just noting the length of the contracts predicted. Gotcha. For him to only be a 4-year, $76 million guy tells me like you're quickly going to get into the tier of guys that teams are going to say, I don't know, 2-3 years, we'll do some option stuff. Like there's just not going to be that many players that are worth it. 24th on this list of total pitchers plus position players is Giolito, and he's expected, according to Kylie McDaniel, and again, we'll see what happens with these, he's only being given 2 years according to this. So anybody after that gets more is probably doing it on a much lower AAV. Now, you asked about the top 50. To give you an idea of how many good players are there, 50th is Verlander. They're predicting a year and $13 million for him. Steven Matz is 45th. They're expecting him to get a couple years, $17 total million. The only name on the top 50, and I can't say I've looked through it entirely, but the one name, and I talked to you about this before we came on. There's a guy that has been pitching in the KBO, has some experience in Japan, and was originally stateside in minor league, then Major League Baseball, kind of flamed out similar to a Miles Mikolas, and then went over and has been pitching well. His name is Cody Ponce, and he is expected to apparently come back this way in this round of free agency, is 31 years old, career 5.86 ERA in the big leagues, but only pitched 55 innings, I believe with the Pirates, if I'm not mistaken. And those are the kinds of guys that you're like, okay, what's he made of? The Cardinals have actually done a pretty, I would say, good job in the international scouting. For whatever you make of the ill-advised contract extension they gave to Mikolas, he was a nice diamond in the rough that they found on that original deal. And they've had some other dealings where it's been successful, maybe some less successful, like a Drew Verhagen. But those are the types of contracts that haven't really cost them because the amount you spent wasn't that significant. And you're always trying to like mine the diamond in the rough to see if you can get more value than what you're paying. And I think that can often be easier to do when it comes to international if you've got the scouts over there and you're invested to be able to identify which guys could come back and translate if they've made changes to their stuff since maybe they were forced to go overseas in the first place. But in the KBO last year, Cody Ponce had a 1.89 ERA, 180 innings, 252 strikeouts. Now, assume that he'll have eye-popping strikeouts coming back this way. That's not often the way that it goes. But if you're talking about a guy, 2 years, $9 million per year, I believe is the prognostication here, 18 total $1 million. So that could be more in the appetite where you say, hey, look, could he be a middle of the rotation starter if we get lucky that we're only spending $9 million on? Is there more upside in something like that than a Kyle Gibson from a couple of years ago when you were basically saying we want the certainty of a Gibson and a Lynn just to kind of give us a floor and an estimate of, all right, here's what to expect? Or could you go for a guy like this for about the same price point where maybe you get a little more out of him? And if it goes right, you could give him a second contract similar to the Miles Mikolas thing. I think that could be in play, Joe, just in terms of like the price point. Could they sign a starter for a $9 million contract, 1 year, 2 year, something in that range? That's one name that jumps out at me just because of, I think it is the closest thing to kind of matching the bargain bin that the Cardinals could be shopping in.
Yeah. Ponce, by the way, brother-in-law of San Francisco 49ers tight end George Kittle.
Oh, well, that's even more fun. I love George Kittle.
Yeah.
So now I really want to sign him.
But yeah, it's one of those. I saw that name over on Friday. And at first Ryan Fagan and I were talking about it off air. And at first I didn't want to bring up the name because I saw the name on there and I was like, okay, this is a guy that's kind of linked to the Cardinals. I've seen,
who is this guy?
And I was like, how have I not heard this name? Like, I watched a lot of baseball. Who the hell did he pitch for that I just missed it? And then I see, oh, yeah, he's over in Asia. Okay, felt a little better about myself with that.
When he did pitch in the major leagues for the Pirates, it was 2020 and 2021, which is a period of time that like feels like a blur as we think back on it. So I definitely had heard, like John Rooney say his name on a radio broadcast. You know what I mean? Like it was in there somewhere, but I had to look back and say, okay, wait a minute. Who's this guy? What is the deal here? But yeah, this is again, Joe, it's kind of difficult because we have to maybe retrain our brains from Mozeliak ball into, okay, what's it going to be now with Chaim Bloom? You can't necessarily say like the prototypical Cardinal target is going to be the same because we've got different people running the show. But I would say the last regime certainly would have been in on a guy like this. And because of where the Cardinals are kind of having to hunt for those bargains, it seems like that's a guy they'll check in on. And if his price point doesn't get out of control, maybe you see something there. The next iteration of name is that guy on the bounce back that feels like the Cardinals haven't really been in on these types of guys in recent years. Big name, but hasn't performed recently. And we don't necessarily think in St. Louis we've got the dudes that can make a reclamation project happen. Like they've stayed away from these types of names in recent years. But now does that change? And the name I would propose is Walker Buehler. I don't know what he would make. I have no idea. He's not listed on this top 50. He's listed in the same category as a bunch of other guys as kind of like other free agents. But is he somebody that after really struggling this past season and then did get picked up late by the Phillies and had a couple of good games for them, but his overall numbers,
weird year. I mean, the last 2 years for him are so weird. Like missing all of 23, coming in there as a World Series hero in 24, and then I mean I was surprised last year, just the 1 year deal he signed with Boston last year. Like after what he did in the World Series,
with the Dodgers though. Yeah, but he was bad that year when he came back.
With the Dodgers, are you talking? What are you talking about? In 25 with the Dodgers?
In 2024, he had a 5.3 ERA. I'm talking regular season. He started.
Okay, no, I'm just talking about what he did in the world, like what he did coming in there in the World Series. Like you just remember him coming back and pitching well in the playoffs in the World Series. Like just that surprised me that he only went out and got a 1 year deal after that. Like that's I figured you'd cash in on something like that.
It looks like the league was right to question it and to say that's nice that he did that.
Yeah.
It's nice that he wanted to pitch and he wanted the ball and he had solid numbers in the postseason, but the strikeout numbers weren't crazy that playoffs. He had like a 3 ERA and got the job done in the clutch. Boston said, we'll give you a 1 year deal. I think there was an option involved there. Obviously, he didn't even last the year with Boston. Philly had him for 3 games. He pitched like 13 innings and had good numbers toward the end. And I wonder, is that enough to even take a guy with some cachet to his name out of the Cardinals orbit, or is the price going to be right on somebody like this? Obviously, he was really a great pitcher when he first came on and had several good years of sustained excellence and was as high as 4th in a Cy Young in 2021. But then the injury, and then we've not really seen that consistency since. But this is the type of name that I would say is perfect for the Cardinals right now. Do I have to pay him, I don't know, $7, $8, $10 million for a year to find out what could end up coming out of this? Or is there a risk associated? Absolutely. But that's the type of money I'd rather spend, maybe even more so than a Cody Ponce. Even if I think Ponce gives you a better floor, I might not really care as much about the floor, Joe. Like if I'm trying to jumpstart a rebuild and I've got $8 million to spend, do I want to devote it to a guy who feels like the safer, if less exciting option, or the guy that, what if we tap back into something and it goes great and we've got a great trade chip on our hands in July? Or maybe Liam Doyle and Quinn Mathews come up to join him and we've got a rotation in July where we're contending for a wild card much sooner than expected. I can't speak to the specific health of Walker Buehler from behind my computer screen in O'Fallon, Missouri, but like as you're kind of surveying the free agent landscape, that feels like the type of guy that you would say, hey, if there's something there that the Cardinals can identify, maybe there's some merit to throwing a little money his way as you try to bridge the gap between now and some of your prospects that you're excited about who just may not be ready yet.
Let us know your thoughts on some names that maybe we haven't mentioned, or let us know the names that we have talked about, whether you like it or not. So you'd love to hear who you would throw in there as part of this discussion when it comes to free agent pitchers out there in Major League Baseball this hot stove season. Until then, he is Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Joe Roderick. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here on Card Central 365.